not enough work in the country and stuff like that, because people are struggling for money and trying to make money.
No, the youths out there not doing nothing, so it's work they have to try and create.
Our third sort of interview with the RISE organization, and today we're blessed with the presence of Mr. Jonathan St. Rose, Ninja Dan, better known as. When we did our last interview, we found out that you were one of the sort of the instigators of this RISE movement. What I wanted to find out from your words were, what was going on in the society back then that made you feel that the time was right to start focusing on issues that were important to marginalized youth in St. Lucia?
Well, at the time I realized there were a lot of youth at risk were either victims of violent crimes, or some of them were perpetrators of violent crimes. And these youths were some of my peers, youths I grew up with, you know, youths I live among them in the community. And it was taking a toll on me in the sense of I could have been one of them victims, you understand? So once I saw Dr. King on some interview about Stop the Violence, and it intrigued me. And then I stopped and I realized, like, hey, I wonder if that doctor's serious. I said, let me give him a test to see. And then I met him on the airport, actually. I was going to England. And I said, hey, Dr. King, I said, that thing you think about that Stop the Violence, you serious about that though? And he was like, yeah. We linked up, it was in a small hotel to the north. I was being very mischievous. I had a joint in my hand. I said, let me start the interview or the meeting with a joint. Let me test the two doctors to see, well, how they're going to receive me, you understand? And it was easy going, you know? It was like the humbleness of the meeting was like, yeah, you tell us what's on your mind. You tell us what's your approach, how we could better things in terms of the society. And I was like, you know, feeling all proud and thing as a little boy or a young man and unwise, and giving them that vision in my mind.
You know, Dr. King, Dr. Bird, I mean, as professionals who've been on the front end of your work, what was it like to have this young, rude boy test you, you know, to see how serious you were about making a difference? What was it like, and what did you see in him to make you want to pursue this this agenda?
Okay, I'll let Dr. Bird go first.
It's interesting because it was exactly as he illustrated it, the beginning, that start. And I was quite amazed. I knew him for his music, and I was quite amazed that, as you say, this young, rude ghetto boy, music man off the street could be articulating what I knew were our thoughts, what I knew I shared with Dr. King. And it was interesting to listen to him speak and to just get a perspective on a strategy to roll out the plans that we had been building. And that certainly I was hesitant that we could achieve to have those plans rolled out. Now, Jonathan is being very modest. What he's not telling you is that the universe has used him and his life as an example of our vision and what we see for the young people in St. Lucia.
And you know, who feels it knows it. And that's what I saw with Jonathan at the time. And it's interesting with musicians, musicians that need to think about the audience that they are reaching. They have to think about the hearts and minds of people, because music is about capturing hearts and minds. So he came from the environment that we wanted to intervene in, and he came as a thinking person from that environment, and a thinking youth from that environment, because of the music that he was involved in. So he had a insight, a perspective, and an ability to articulate what he felt could work to reach the youth that we wanted to reach.
In a voice that they would listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of concern for the well-being of those marginalized people, was that an island-wide thing? Or, I mean, I remember it being sort of isolated to the Chaussee Road area, and I kind of thought that's where it was. But was it an island-wide problem?
It was well, as you rightly said, the Chaussee, because I at the time I lived in the Marshall area, the Bagatelle area. That is where you find the hot spots of serious crimes and violence, you know, sometimes. And that was what intrigued me or instigated me in terms of heading to that direction, you know, in terms of joining with Dr. King and lead the movement.
And that, in a way, Rise is, as Jonathan has often said, it's about action. We do and we show. It's not just about the talk.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's important, and especially even more so now than before. Young people don't want to hear just more empty words and more talk. It has to be some sort of tangible action that means something, you know. And of course, the other thing is that Rise doesn't hold on to things. We think of something, we do something, it's successful, we pass it on.
Yeah.
It could be the WPP project, the World Pediatric Program project. It could be whatever it is. We pass it on. We break the ice, we make it a success, and we pass that on to the people. Because, you know, no one person or no one organization can do everything.
Yeah.
So we have to, just what you're talking about, bring people out, bring people together, make a success, and then let them take it from there. Build capacity in people. That's the only way poverty and poverty is going to be eradicated and development is going to happen.
Have you feel that you are meeting the expectations of what you thought that kind of a movement could be, or are we still way behind, or, you know, how do you think we've come along?
Weird, because don't forget I was away for a time, so then I'm just starting to readjust myself on ground level, you understand?
I mean, he definitely, in those early days, he opened up the doors into communities that otherwise we would never have truly got to. Because yes, you can get in and speak to people, but you're not in their heart and in their mind. You're not at their core. It's superficial. The front is still up. The defenses are still there. You're not really penetrating. Well, with the partnership we had, it allowed us to get in there, and I think that was very powerful.
From what I know in the past and what I know now, it has surpassed his expectations because of assistance Rise has given to the whole country in a holistic point of view in terms of the youth and them that went to university overseas, and the amount of monies and finance Rise has assisted in terms of the care program if they used to go into school, educational program, and the national youth skills thing from BZ. And too many other community projects, including the safe spaces, Rise has contributed tremendously.
Yeah. As we were talking earlier, our guns and ammunition is love.
Yeah.
Right? And forgiveness. We embrace everybody. There's no behavior that is too reprehensible for us to not embrace that person and say, let us. That's the past.
Yeah.
Let's commit to love each other and move on from here. You know, because that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yes, what has happened is only a lesson. The trials and tribulations of our lives are just lessons that we must now apply as we go to a higher heights, as we develop ourselves and those around us, right? Jonathan is somebody that has had many trials and tribulations in his life.
Yeah.
But we have to continue on this journey until the Most High tells us that's it.
Yeah.
You know, to me that's the beauty of Rise, and I said it's perseverance. He said, you know, remember they said, oh stop, this is a failure. It's never a failure.
Yeah.
We know what's right. We believe what's right. We will persevere. We will persevere against all odds to try and make.
And just to add on what Dr. King is saying, one activity which stood out for us, that was in the year 2008 when we did this cleanup campaign in Marshall, and you find like Rise was working with a lot of schools and a lot of other entities, and we asked them to come on board in terms of assisting us in executing this activity in terms of cleaning up the Marshall area from the place where the traffic lights there by the guy that doing the eggs. Yeah.
Okay.
From there all the way up to Bagatelle. And when we started, I mean, we had a truck of music and we had tools and everything. When we started, I was like, myself and a very few people, barely you could count the people on your two hands. And then the DJ was like, yo, done. That failed, man, that flop, we can't do that again. I said, nah, man. I said, that can never flop. I said, start the music. Even though I have to start it by myself, well, boy, we will go. I hold the cutlass in my hand and I have my boots and my flowers and I planting and them kind of thing. And then when the music start playing, now you see endless little legs, you know, running down the road with their rake and the sacks. And then you see children start coming by the 10s and the 20s and the 40s, and it was a joy to see that kind of vibes and the way, because the children I was expecting to come wasn't the children that come, but the children from the roots. From the ground level, you know, children from the ghetto, from the hot spots. It's them mothers send them and help into them. Now, another thing I learned from that experience was when you reach in the ghetto part, you find in the filthiness of the gutters, they had all kind of little bits of nylons and them kind of things. So I was like, my bro, go and pick up that for me. And the man said, well, you know, I'm not going there. And I said, let me show you that. And I myself will go down and pick up the pieces of thing. And the man will tell me, boy, done, man, a big celebrity like you doing that. I say, bro, I'm doing it for you to see the level. That if I can do it, you can do it. So there ain't nothing for me to come down and pick it up under you, my brother. Pick it up and put it in the bag. And that was a marvelous lesson. You understand?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, many goals was achieved on that day. In terms of beautifying the community. Yeah, cleaning up the community, planting flowers, but planting in the youth mind that there was a hope. Yeah, something could happen. A leadership could come out from community. You understand? Where somebody could come and say, hey, let's do that. And the mothers and fathers of the little children will send them out and support you.
If you can believe this,
come by my house and let me show you some movies.
Why can't you believe this? Some mothers don't believe their own children when they say they've been sexually abused, and they don't report it. Remember, if anyone asks to see or touch their private parts, touches them inappropriately, shows them or forces them to touch one's private parts, has sex with them, shows them pornographic material, or deliberately lets them hear or see the act of sex, then it is sexual abuse. Believe your child and report the sexual abuse. For more information about child abuse, contact these agencies. This message brought to you by UNICEF and this station.
Okay. Now that Rise has sort of matured into not just into its role, but into its expectations. So now you're looking at the prevention of the teen suicide sort of malaise we're moving into. How is that next phase of Rise going to be rolled out to be effective? Because as we all know as St. Lucians, we hear that all the time about young people committing suicide. How does Rise find their way into correcting that course?
Yeah. Let me start. Well, one of the ways I think, in my humble opinion, that how we could approach that, by me being an example, and when I say an example, a living example in the sense of my lifestyle, my trials, my tribulations, because a lot of the things I've been through, I mean, there are other people that have been through worse things than me, but a lot of the things I've been through is tremendously a lot. You understand? That is things where, boy, that could cause people to go and commit suicide. You understand? Because, I mean, if I were to go into the examples of some of the trials and tribulations I've gone through, it would be too heartbreaking for now to release them things to you. But me going through them and coming out on the other side and living and surviving to tell you the story is a lot. You understand? And that is one of the approach I personally want to take in terms of speaking to the younger ones as to what I did or how I was able to maneuver, how I was able to rise above the tribulation and still.
What we are very keen to do is to infect people, especially younger people, with our thinking, especially as it pertains to the power of relationships and the nurturing of young human beings. So we're concentrating a lot on parenting. I personally believe that the key to the reduction of suicide is in instructing parents how to treat their children positively and how to nurture them for the better. I don't believe, barring a significant mental illness, that a young person who feels they're the best thing that ever happened to somebody else would kill themselves. So if a young person is growing up with whatever their trials and tribulations are, but they believe that they're the best thing that ever happened to their mother or their father or even a boyfriend or girlfriend or an aunt or a teacher, it will be harder for them to commit suicide. And that's one of the reasons why we're concentrating on parent coaching on the importance of relationships. Positive relationships underlie everything that is good in the society. And that's really where we're trying to turn on the light, as it were, and to just infect people with.
And you know, I would answer it this way as well. Think about how a child grows, how human beings grow. We start in our mother's wombs, and it starts right there with a healthy pregnancy where a woman is loved during her pregnancy, and this baby is spoken to and loved in the womb. So that baby is born into a secure, safe environment, and that baby is raised in an environment where the baby is not exposed to any kinds of violence. It's emotional violence, physical violence, sexual violence, or neglect, right? Which is what we call the adverse childhood experiences. We should grow our children without them having that. Therefore, they then become resilient because they believe in themselves, they have confidence in themselves, they have love and respect for themselves, as they have love and respect for others, as they have love and respect for the Most High. That is how the child is supposed to grow. And you know, when you think about a child growing like that, when the child gets to being a teen, when they get to being a teen, they're then relating to one another, their peers. And there too, their peer relationships must be healthy relationships. Bullying and humiliation is something that should not be happening in these relationships for the children. So you will find a child that commits suicide is a child that has been exposed to a lot of adverse childhood experiences and a child that continues to be humiliated, bullied, and violated. That is how you break that human spirit.
Is the RISE model restricted to that kind of an out role?
Really, we're very active in that right now, okay? It's not an easy task, and I'm not the expert on it, because I can tell you, as we were saying earlier, who feels it knows it. The experts are there on the ground. The experts are those people that are in the life, and they're the ones that can communicate, like what Jonathan was talking about before. What we can bring to the table is some science, make some connections, open the doors to create that pipeline of resources for the community.
Give you that feeling of
Hope.
Sometimes you want to ask the question, what do people want? Sometimes the answer's simple. What do they want? They probably want the same things that we want wherever we live.
Of course.
All
people want the same things.
They want a better life.
That's right.
They want a better life, and we have paid attention to that in our so-called parenting program, because how can we instruct parents to treat children better if they can't eat or if they can't provide for their children? So at the same time we're trying to give them the science of better parenting, we're trying to open up their own lives and show them how they can build capacity in themselves. Yeah, it's about changing thinking. And you'll notice we have a lot of young people working with us. So there were a cadre of youth, secondary school youth, that were trained in those workshops as well. We are, for the moment, only in Cicero, at Cicero Secondary. And we've also engaged some primary school children and some special education children within the Cicero environs as well. So what we're hoping, we're trying to train these trainers so that they can impact their own peers in the thinking of positive relationships, nurturing. It's not just adults we're trying to teach about parenting, because these secondary school students are our next generation of parents. And we're trying to if we can just seed the knowledge and the science that underlies the importance of positive nurturing and the development of the human brain. If we can just teach these secondary school students, they will be the parents of the next generation that hopefully will be raising children with less adverse childhood experience.
Which is suicide awareness. So now we have to move into the next phase, which is moving into the community and taking the message, creating the cells that we spoke of in the community, the cells of awareness, the cells of knowledge in the communities. So these people who we have trained, we are now marshalling them into a force that we can now take. Because remember, we're going to start our futsal competition with teams from all the communities. These teams are to be trained, and they're to mobilize people in community that our trainers can now work with. Because we have to be able to get into the community and get to the right people in community. So it's not good just to have a workshop somewhere, and who shows up is who we interface with and we impart knowledge to. We must penetrate into the places that need the light the most.
Yeah.
Right? Into the darkest places. That's where we must go. So we need people in the community to take us there. And then we take our trainers with us. So that's essentially, and we are, over the next, up to August 1st, August 1st, Emancipation Day, is the day we're going to launch our competition, our Peace League. Leading up to that is when we're going to be doing the first set of training. And then, of course, the training continues. Because this doesn't happen, we're not going to train in this depth and to the kind of knowledge that we need to give overnight. It's going to take months and years to really get to where we need to get to. And part of what we want to do over the next 4.5 years in Safe Spaces is create leaders in every community who have the right thinking and have the capacity to carry the process forward. We want to establish resource centers with the help of government, but not necessarily, but also in partnership with private sector and a social entrepreneurship type model. Resource centers in every community so that people can get the resources that they require to develop their communities, develop themselves. And these are like one-stop shops for anything you need. So you go there, you bring whatever it is you need, and they connect you. So that, back to, I think we spoke about it before, this Arthur Lewis mantra, the fundamental cure for poverty is not money but knowledge. So these are knowledge centers. It's like the Matrix, like I said, that's where your telephone call is going to come. That's where we can take you out of the misery and launch you into a better space, a safer space. So, and in addition to that, we cannot do this in an environment within which there's gang warfare and interference with what we need to do. Because the sport is across the community lines, so it's across gang lines. So in addition to that, we have to do peace negotiations and communication with gang leaders, who themselves are community leaders, to try and get to a point where we can diffuse violence, we can diffuse conflicts, because that is part of violence and conflict.
So you were saying you were doing some research on RISE.
Actually, when I met Dr. King last week and they introduced me to you, and then I went and do some research on the RISE movement interview you had. I was able to make connection with RISE the movement Angola, RISE the movement in America, RISE the movement in Jamaica, and I was so amazed to see that these organizations, non-profitable organizations in the first world countries, how ironic that they choose only one social illness to tackle. You understand? And we being in a third world country, which is Rise of Movements and Lucia, we tackling so many other things. We tackling crime and violence, we tackling adult literacy, we tackling community programs and leadership programs, we tackling sending children to university, and we tackling things from the ground level. And we are a third world country.
I'll tell you one thing I know in closing. I mean, just in my short experience with the group, I think, Jonathan, you can be proud of the little seed that you laid in the heads of the professionals, and you laid it in the heads of the right professionals who'll be able to stick with it and stick with you. But the gains have been significant. I mean, we all know how hard it is to get anything to move in this little island, but the gains have been significant. So I see no reason why you guys shouldn't be successful going forward. You know, if you keep at it, tenacity.
You see, the thing about Rise is, it is what it is. People don't want to hear the trials and the tribulations we go through. People just want to hear the success story. But success story never comes without the hardships, and never comes without the tears and the pain and the sufferings and the tribulation. And this morning I asked Dr. King, if suffering is a good thing and tribulation is a good thing, and he give me A1 answer, he tell me yes. Because if I ask the next person if suffering is a good thing, they'll tell me no, because nobody don't want to suffer. But suffering is a good thing because it takes you closer to happiness, and it makes you appreciate what happiness is truly about and what love is truly about. You cannot love and you don't know what hate is. You don't know how it is to be hated, and you don't know how it is to be rejected by people, unless you're in that level of thinking for you to appreciate what love is. Right now, guys, love is in my heart, love is in my eyes, love is all around me, and I dwell and I live in that, and that is the power. Everybody based on vanity and money and status and title and them things is because when you die, you know going none of them things. But when you die, you go with love, because love is God and God is love. True?
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add? I think that was a
I think that was a perfect closing.
Yep. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the time.
Thanks, Andre.